This week on Painting Lines.
It's not all about the wins, man. I live a great life. I'm having a good time. Look at my hair.
Taking him early. Okay.
Taking him early. I don't want to risk him slipping.
Gilles Mueller, 2017 is my next pick.
Welcome to the Painting Lines podcast, your one-stop shop for all things tennis. Join Eric and Aiden in their discussion for updates on news and pop culture, and from hot takes to betting, they've got you covered.
Ready?
Welcome back to Painting Lines. Last week we recapped the French Open, and this week we're excited to welcome Quinn and Parth back onto the pod. If you want a little bit more backstory on them, you can check out episode 32, which was Inside College Tennis. But anyway, welcome back on, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to be back.
Well, thank you guys for having us. This is your domicile.
Exactly. So this week we had a cool idea for a fantasy draft between the four of us where we break down the best seasons of the Open era, and at the end we kind of can see which guy selected the best for overall, and maybe the audience can decide for us which season draft was the best. Only really rule of this is you can only pick one guy, one season from each guy. So you can't pick Nadal 2010 and 2013. But other than that, let's just get it going. So let's start with the order of picking by rolling some dice here.
All right. Let's see if this matches my Catan output. Oh, baby. Okay.
4, okay.
It's all right. Parth would never pick Djokovic.
5, okay.
Okay.
4, okay. We got to roll off for the last pick. That could be an advantage, the last pick. You get back-to-back.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, so I'm going last. Okay, so it is
okay.
Parth, Eric, Quinn, and then myself. Okay, so you ready for this, Parth?
I think so. I mean,
So with the first pick of the 2024,
Bum 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 ba-da-dum.
okay. I'll put my general manager hat on. It's kind of a blessing and a curse to be first because there are so many amazing seasons on our board here, and it kind of pains me because my guy Rafa is probably not the first overall pick, which
Understandable.
hurts to say. Should I talk through my thought process a little bit? I can kind of say what I'm in between right now. I think for me it's probably between Federer 2006 and Djokovic 2011. And with an honorable mention, Djokovic 2015. Obviously, there are some amazing kind of older seasons. Laver 1969 is on the list. McEnroe 84. All amazing seasons. But I have some recency bias. So I'm going to go with Djokovic 2011. And the reason for that is getting a lot of chirping over here. I think that Djokovic was pretty much the first and since really the only guy that made Rafa look human on clay, and he did it convincingly, repeatedly, and I think that Rafa, not to plug my guy again, but Rafa on clay is the best tennis player of all time, I think. He's the most dominant tennis player ever is Rafa on clay, and
Hard to argue against that one.
I feel like him taking down Rafa in 2015, he beat Rafa at the French Open, right?
Yeah,
he beat Rafa in the French Open in straight
Choked
sets.
in the final.
And choked in the final. Rafa was kind of hurt. He had that wrist injury, and so that was okay. That's great, and he was a match away from Calendar Slam. But 2011, I think it was incredible. 5 Masters, 70-6, 41 matches in a row to start the season. Not too bad. We haven't really seen a streak like that since. Obviously 3 majors, and didn't lose to Rafa one time. Just one loss to Federer in the French Open. So that is my number one pick. and just like I remember from my time watching him, like he would be going out in like Miami playing the quarters against like Monfils, who was like 8 in the world or whatever. He was the top player at the time, and he would just go out and win like 2-1 in like 57 minutes. And I was just watching these matches and seeing these results and kind of just thinking like, how is this guy? How did he just flip the switch like this so quickly? Like he obviously stopped eating bread and started talking to his water, so I guess that helped. But anyways, that's my pick.
Sounds good. I think that's a great opening pick here. I think we all would have wanted to take that in the first round if we had that available. So up next we have Eric, right?
Yes, we do. I'm on the clock. And this one is going to be more of an emotional pick. I need him on my team. I'm going Sampras, 94.
My boy Pete. It's Pete.
Taking him early.
I'm
Okay.
taking him early. I don't want to risk him slipping, but I never got to watch Pete, obviously, being the age I am. But I just need this guy on my team. As a general manager, he's a locker room guy. I feel like he's someone that people would look up to him. And yeah, not a whole lot. So we got 1994, 77 and 12. He had 10 titles, 2 slams, Sunshine double, and he was 10-4 versus the year-end top 10. So that's Pete for you.
Yeah. I mean, not to take away from that one, but I got to say that wasn't as high on my board as maybe it was on yours.
Gonna have to agree on that.
My big takeaway from him that year, kind of let down at the U.S. Open, didn't get it done. And also, he actually lost a match to a guy outside the top 200 that year. So that just gives me a little bit of uncertainty with his consistency. Obviously, he was mainly consistent, but losing to a guy outside the top 200 is pretty bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going more of a subjective route here. Love Pete.
77 and 12 is pretty good, though.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
10 titles. That's pretty solid. Who did he lose to outside the top 200?
I don't remember the guy's name.
A random guy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I have imagined that was maybe on clay.
Perhaps. I don't really remember what the match was. I just made a note of it because I saw the guy's ranking. Anyway, Quinn, you're up.
Well, I'm just gonna have to thank you first, Eric. You just gave me a bit of a gift.
You got it.
I will probably. I think I'm gonna have to take Federer 2006. I think there's definitely critiques of the Federer 2006 season, but it's pretty incredible season. He basically was one match away from the calendar slam. Obviously, that was pretty huge. He and then it wasn't the French. He didn't play Djokovic in the French. He played Djokovic in the clay season at some point in like a first round.
Yeah, I think in Monte Carlo.
So he got wins over all the big guys. What did he have? Like 12 titles. Yeah, I don't know. It was a dominant season. It was 92-5. He was just like by far the best player in the world at that point, and I don't know.
Yeah, I gotta say my only critique of that one is his head-to-head versus Nadal, because obviously 4 losses to Nadal isn't great, and also he obviously had the loss to Murray, but losing one match to Murray isn't as big as losing 4 to one guy and having a negative record against him in the season overall, because that kind of there's that argument like if that guy beat you more, was he the best player? So
it's fair. Most of the loss he lost to him, what was it, once on hard and
I think once on hard and 4 times on
clay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we talked about Nadal on clay already. I think that's fair. And Nadal did kind of have Federer's number.
That's true. It's hard to argue that Federer was bad because he lost to Nadal on clay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a pretty amazing season.
Yeah. Well, I got to thank all of you guys because the number one pick on my board is still on there, which is Djokovic 2015. I mean, he lost very few matches, obviously. What was it? I have 82-6, I believe. He was one match from the calendar slam, like Federer was in 2006. And after he lost to Karlovic in Doha at the beginning of the year, he only lost in finals for the rest of the year. So that's pretty just unbelievable. He had 16,000 ranking points, which was almost double the second place person. And he got 6 Masters titles to break his own record from 2011 and made 8 out of the 9. Really tough to argue against that. He was 15-4 against the Big Four. Just such a spectacular season. And just my reasoning for it over the 2011 season is there was the more titles, but also the fact that in 2011 he kind of sputtered out at the end of the year and didn't necessarily have as much success in those last couple tournaments, whereas he was just consistently strong for all of 2015.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's my first pick. Now, with the snake draft, I get a second pick.
Unreal.
Oh, my God.
And I'm going to have to go with McEnroe in 1984.
Oh.
So
Such a good roster already. Oh, my God.
he went 82-3, I want to say here. 3 losses the entire year. He obviously didn't win 3 slams because he didn't play in all 4. And he did lose that Roland Garros final, was 1 set away from winning it, and was actually up a break in that 3rd set. So that's a real bummer, but 2 other matches lost other than that, and was just pretty dominant in a lot of those matches too. So it was the highest win rate of any player in the Open era. It's just untouchable. And while you look at 1984 and you have to say, okay, the competition level probably isn't the same as it is today, it's still a very high level, and the dominance is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. You forgot the most important stat: 17 unsportsmanlike conducts, three smashed rackets.
That has to be a record. 17 on, or I guess Kyrgios probably has something similar. Maybe
Yeah.
Tomic as well.
Luckily, there's no flags in.
I know, right?
Am I wrong? Did he play only 2 of the 4 majors?
He played three out of 4. He won 2 of them, and he was a set away from winning the French Open.
Okay. He missed.
It was Lendl, right?
Yeah, Lendl came back, clawed his way back into that one.
With the sawdust in his pockets. It's crazy. It's a bummer that the Australian Open just didn't have the prominence back in the day. I feel like that just kind of makes all these debates a little wonky. Is that just like it's a product of their time? But I mean, I think the strength of schedule was probably pretty solid in '84 for what it was. I think. That's my critique for Federer 2006 is that the field was kind of in a state of transition from the early 2000s guys late 90s guys starting to fade out. There was kind of a power vacuum, and then obviously Federer just dominated, made everyone else look like they were a weak field. But
yeah, I mean 237 consecutive weeks is number 1. That kind of has got to be an argument towards there being no real contender there.
Yeah. But we saw what happened when it did happen. Federer not necessarily regressed, but the competition did step up later on and gave him a little bit of a hard time.
100%. So back to you, Quinn. 2nd round pick here.
2nd round pick. I think this is a tough one. I think another incredible season. I'm going to have to go with Rod Laver in 1969.
It's a good pick.
Roddy.
2nd year of the Open era, I believe. I think it's the only time anyone has ever won the calendar slam.
Outside of him before the Open era.
Sorry. In the Open era, it's the only one that's ever won the calendar slam. So I think that's pretty huge. I don't know a ton. It was I feel like I've seen different numbers of wins on different websites. It's like 97 or 105 or something. Those are the options. I don't really know.
And I think sometimes it is because the ATP or that organization has a certain number, but then also there were other professional organizations that maybe he played in and got wins in.
Right. Yeah. He was the unanimous number 1 across the organizations, which, how many number 1s can say that? What else? 18 titles. I think that all speaks for itself. Legend.
When you look at just the 4 slams, it's just okay, there's really tough to make an argument against that one.
He's the only one who's done it.
Exactly.
Some have gotten close.
Very close. 1 match away multiple times.
Yeah.
Federer 2006. Great pick.
I mean, yeah, it's a little different when your hopes are dashed in the French Open.
That's the thing that is interesting is like we can say one match away
in retrospect.
But in the moment it was already done by May.
I mean, Djokovic lost that U.S. Open final in 2021. Like, you saw him crumble under the pressure of that achievement. I mean, it's not like Federer was thinking about it. Like, it's one set all in the French Open final. He's probably
exactly.
I don't know. I think they're thinking about it.
They might be, but I think that's probably weighing on them less than if it was like the U.S. Open final.
Yeah,
I feel like that's where it really rubber hits the road.
100%.
Yeah.
Eric?
All right. I'm going with Nadal 2010.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that sticks out to me the most here is the first to win Surface Slam, 3 slams, 3 services in 1 year, because that just shows how well-rounded of a player he is. And obviously untouchable on clay, 22-0, and then 3 Masters and a French Open.
Yeah. It definitely a top season there. And if I'm going to nitpick on that one, it's just what you kind of have to do against a season like that is he didn't necessarily maintain his consistency outside of the majors or on clay. And that's such a specific category, but it's like he didn't win a hard court Masters, and he had a few losses to guys that were like outside the top 20, but that's not really a big deal. Top 20 is such a specific group of guys.
Right. And I feel like now it's, some people weight achievements strictly on Grand Slams. You know?
That's true.
I mean, not everyone, but it is something that's, I would say, weighted way more heavily.
Yeah, well, I hope not, because otherwise we just let Laver slip to the second round.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
But, okay, so Parth, back up to you at the top of the order here. Who are you going with?
Okay. This one is feeling particularly tough. I think I am thinking about, Jimmy Connors' 1974 is looking real good on the board. I'm thinking about if I'm drafting for talent or need. And I think I'm going to go with need, and I need Rafa 2008. That is for sure. I think that season, just for me personally, like, really made me just like a real true tennis fan. I think that was the first year where I like really remember all the stuff that happened pretty vividly. And there's the basics of like, he had a great record, 82-11. He supplanted Federer for the world number 1 ranking after 237 weeks, like you said, which was just kind of an insane achievement in and of itself. He was the first to win the Channel Slam, I think, since Borg at the time.
Channel Slam?
The French in Wimbledon.
Yeah.
He was the first Spaniard to win Wimbledon since like Manolo Santana in 2 centuries ago, probably. He had 3 Masters 1000s, which probably a knock against it, probably not signaling true dominance, but I think one of them was Montreal, and then he won probably the other 2 on clay, I imagine. So at least he had some surface diversity there. And then I think one important note is that he won what I think is the best tennis match of all time in the 2008 Wimbledon final. I think that that signaled a real changing of the guard, and just like the storylines leading up to that of like clay court specialist. Okay, he can play on all surfaces now. That narrative was shed in that match, and 32 match win streak across 3 surfaces, pretty darn good. Destroyed Federer in the French Open final. The only benefit he really had was that Djokovic wasn't Djokovic yet.
Yeah.
He did win the Australian Open that year, so he was kind of on the scene, but he wasn't the Djokovic that he later became. So, vamos Rafa is all I got to say.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a crazy storyline season. What I have written down here as a knock against that season is kind of that it wasn't a full season that he was dominant for. Because if you look at his season, he didn't have that crazy of a start to it, and he didn't have that crazy of an end to it, but for about 4 months in the summer, he was insane.
Yeah.
And so while obviously that carried him for the whole year, because that's how the rankings work and stuff, it wasn't like he was dominant for 12 months. He was dominant really for 4 months.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, he certainly, it was kind of like a this sort of season.
Peaked at the right time, though.
He peaked at the right time, and he just ran the show. I mean, Olympic gold as well. So the summer was pretty ridiculous, like you said. I mean, he won on clay, he won on grass, and then he won on hard at the Olympics. And then just couldn't really find it, I guess, at the Australian Open or the U.S. Open quite yet, but figured it out later. He did end year-end number 1 at least, so that kind of signaled, like we were talking about earlier, he was at least the best player of that year. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's the most dominant season, but it's probably my favorite season.
I think it's hard to hold Rafa to a full season of tennis because he's constantly battling injuries too. He's not the type of guy that really publicly says it either. So I think a lot of it's behind the scenes.
Yeah, he 2008 still had the tape on his knees. He was trying to probably cut off circulation so he couldn't feel them.
Exactly.
I know he had custom Nike soles, right, because of his foot.
Yeah, I think he wears shoes that are a little bit smaller for him than he otherwise would too. Maybe that's
now that I notice it, his feet are kind of unproportionate to his body, the size.
Yeah, they're a little small. Well, I mean, he's just giant.
Yeah,
Also.
yeah. Biceps.
All right, but now you got snake draft.
Oh yeah. Okay. Wow. Oh wow. Okay. I actually didn't have to debate anything. Okay. I'm taking Jimbo Connors, 1974. Just ridiculous numbers, honestly. 94-4, 15 titles, 3 Grand Slams. The only reason he couldn't play all 4 slams is because of the conflict between the Pro Tours. And so he's kind of robbed of the opportunity to play the French Open. And it's hard to, I mean, obviously it's all speculative, but he was pretty good on clay. So you have to think he probably would have been the favorite. And that kind of changes a lot of tennis history. If he does win a calendar year slam from that, like, does that diminish Rod Laver's season? Like, what does that mean for what a calendar slam is? But overall, I think it's the second by win rate. It's the second highest win rate.
Almost the highest.
Almost high. Yeah, it's like a tenth of a percentage point, right behind McEnroe. So, yeah, he was pretty darn good.
Yeah, I wanted that season badly too, but I knew it wasn't going to come around all the way back to me, and I felt like I had to go with the ones I had. The thing about that season is it was like he went 3 of 3 in the slams he played. How often has that really happened where the guy goes 100%? Not that often. So pretty insane of a season. I think sometimes I was looking through that season and some of the tournaments he won, because obviously he had played at so many matches. Some of the tournaments he won, the competition wasn't always there. He didn't play like a top 10 or 15 opponent. But the thing was that when he did play those guys, he still beat them.
Yeah, like he was beating Nastase.
Exactly. So it's like, even though he didn't play them all the time, when he did play them, he beat them. So,
and he started the year ranked 3rd and finished number 1. So I mean, it wasn't like a sure thing that he was just going to come out and run the show, and he
did.
kind of earned it.
All right, so back to you, Eric.
Yeah, I know you guys are going to sleep on this one again, but Agassi 99. I like it because of his comeback. I think that is very impressive. I think this is the biggest jump out of everyone on the draft board as far as like coming from, his
97.
addiction. Yeah, 97, everything. So let's see. He had 2 slams. He completed the career slam on 3 surfaces. First one to do that, and his overall record was 63-14. So I'm going with him. He's a good guy to have on the team. Him and Pete, I don't know if they would jive well together though, but
I mean, I didn't think that one was going that early either, to be honest. And the big thing for that one is really that he never defeated Sampras in a tournament.
I know.
He had one win against him in the ATP finals, but kind of like Sinner last year, he then went on to lose to Sampras in the final. Yeah, okay. So it's one of the situations kind of like with Federer in 2006, but obviously that one you're playing against Nadal on clay, whereas here you're playing against Sampras and you lose to him almost every time. Yeah. It almost feels like, okay, is he really the best player if he's losing to this one guy every time they play? And that's the knock against him, but definitely an incredible season. Yeah. Completed the calendar slam, or not the calendar slam, completed the career slam.
In a cool way. Came back from 2 sets to love down.
Exactly.
Medvedev, OG Medvedev in the French final.
Yeah, so definitely a impressive season.
Yeah, I know. Didn't
see it going there, to be honest.
He's all heart.
Exactly. All right, you ready, Quinn?
Not at all. I'm leaning towards making a pick with my heart.
Do it.
I don't know whether this is the most logical pick ever, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I think I'm gonna pick Andy Murray, 2016.
Stolen from Aiden.
I mean, that's a great pick. I love Murray so much.
If you listen
to this podcast, you know how much I love Murray, but you'll hear my knock in a second.
There certainly is a knock. Good season, 78-9. Took world number 1 from Djokovic after, the season which was your first pick, Aiden. So coming off of, but arguably the best season of all time. Yeah. He literally took the number 1 ranking from him. This is close on the heels of other seasons that have already been picked of other players as well. This was, still heart of the big three. I don't know. It was a great year. He won Wimbledon. I was actually at the Wimbledon final, and I watched him win it. So there was some love there. Yeah. Gold medal, second gold medal.
Second
gold medal.
In a row.
In a row. That's like, oh yeah. It has
how many people? Well, how many people? It is crazy, but like, how many people do defend the Olympic gold?
That's true. Defended the Olympic gold. That's something. What else?
I wonder if you drop points if you don't defend.
Dude, do you get
4 years later?
Is it?
Well, yeah, you don't drop points because it's 4 years later. Yeah, that'd be hilarious if you win the Olympics, you get to hold those points for 4 years.
Yeah, and it's like 2,000 points.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be crazy.
Who won the last Olympics?
Zverev.
Oh, right.
Against what's his name? Pablo Carreño Busta.
No,
in the finals.
Busta lost.
It was Khachanov.
Khachanov.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a couple of picks there that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Obviously, my knock against Murray is Djokovic being there, like kind of with Agassi. Arguable, it wasn't the best year, or that Murray wasn't the best player of that year. He obviously got the most points, and he had an impressive year, but if you look at the slams, Djokovic got 2 and didn't have a bad year outside of him, really. So that's the argument against it. But obviously, Murray, I love him, ended with a 24-match win streak and
clutch.
Just clutched up in the last few moments to take the number 1 ranking.
I love a gamer,
Exactly, but don't want to knock it too hard because I love the season. Yeah. So my next pick that I'm gonna go with, because I have my last 2 here, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I've taken Djokovic and I've taken McEnroe, and the pick that I'm gonna leave here with is, I think, first I'm gonna take. This is a tough one because I'm going between 2 Federer seasons, and I think, hypothetically, one of them is better, but the other one has such a better storyline. So,
do it. Yeah, you can't take both, huh?
No, I can't take 2 Federers. Yeah, I guess I'll go Federer 2017 because Federer 2004 was the other one I was debating with. Obviously, he had an incredible year in 2004 and was probably more dominant, but 2017 was just such a spectacular year. He comes back after his surgery and enters the Australian Open as the number 17 seed. Makes it to the finals, playing Nadal in my favorite match of all time. Back and forth, 5 sets. has these break moments in the 5th set, and just so much drama that year. Wins the Australian Open, wins the Sunshine Double, is the most recent guy to have won the Sunshine Double. Got 7 total titles, and just an incredible year for a guy that people thought wasn't going to be able to return to the level. Obviously, he hadn't won a slam since 2012 Wimbledon, and this year he wins the Australian Open and Wimbledon, so pretty spectacular.
Can you tell me who ended that season ranked number 1 in the world?
I don't want to bring that up.
I think Mr. Rafa took care of business there.
Yeah, because Nadal made the Australian Open final. He won the U.S. Open. He won the French. What did he do at Wimbledon, though?
We don't talk about that. Gilles Muller. Gilles Muller was kind of Rafa's foil a few times.
Okay.
He might have a winning record against Rafa.
That's crazy. Not many people could say that.
Gilles Muller, 2017 is my next pick.
I think it was like 1917 in the 5th set of that Wimbledon 4th round. Tough. We don't bring up Rafa at Wimbledon unless it's 2008.
Yeah, exactly. And now I don't think I can really go with a Nadal pick in good conscience, to be honest. I don't think it's there because there's another guy that I want to take, and it's Mats Wilander in 1988. Because Wilander is a guy that flies so far under the radar. People that are not tennis fans don't know the name at all. And the fact that he was able to win 3 slams that year is pretty insane. He had a record of 53-12, and one interesting fact is that he won the French, and in the final he hit 71 of 73 first serves in. He missed 2 first serves in the entire match, and also he won the equivalent of 2 Masters 1000. They didn't have the Masters 1000 tournaments at that point, but he won that sort of level of tournament. So wasn't disappearing outside of the majors too. So overall, just an incredible year, and I think one that slides under the radar.
Totally.
Yeah.
I honestly don't have any pushback against that.
That rounds out my 4. So I got Djokovic 2015, McEnroe 84, Federer 2017, and Wilander 88. And now back to you, Quinn.
It's a pretty good roster.
That is super fair. I'm realizing at this point that I don't have Djokovic on my team yet, and I feel like I have to get him on my team. I think Djokovic 2021, much like the Federer 2017, you got someone who's just like performing at this incredible level at a pretty old age, and probably similar age, 34, 35. They were probably both about that in those seasons, respective seasons. 55-7, one match away from the calendar slam.
Yeah.
The U.S. Open's a little bit hard for our boy, but I don't know. Pretty incredible year. At that age, obviously he played. I mean, same with Federer. A lot less matches than some of these other seasons, but when they're playing, they're dominant. And I think at the age of 35, you probably have to be a little bit more selective with the matches that you're playing, but oh my goodness, he was so good. So I think that's gonna have to be my pick.
Yeah, that's an understandable pick. I had that actually ranked very highly on my list, but obviously I'd already taken Djokovic with my first round. My only knock against that season was, like you said, he was kind of just hunting for the majors, looking for those big titles, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like he didn't necessarily do as well outside of them, and also the fact that he crumbled in the biggest moments. He was really hoping for that Olympic gold, was the only thing he was missing. Failed that, and he like going into the Olympics, he had the chance for the golden calendar slam, which would have been something no one's ever done.
Yeah.
Only Steffi.
Okay, so in the ATP tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of these things I've said today. Oh, only this person's ever done that. You can argue about Steffi or Navratilova just dominating in the WTA, but in the ATP, no one would have ever done that, and doesn't even medal in the Olympics.
We got qualified or no?
No, he got 4th place. He just lost.
Okay.
And then
To Pablo, right? Pablo Carreño Busta.
he lost
Nice.
to Zverev and then to Carreño Busta. And then in the
Your boy.
U.S. Open, he lost in straight sets to Medvedev. So definitely was just feeling the pressure there and kind of crumbled under it. Obviously, we know he's a mental giant, but in those moments he wasn't able to perform. But still, obviously, incredible season.
I agree.
He also got breadsticked by Jensen Brooksby, and I think that should be noted.
Yeah.
In one set at the U.S. Open.
In one set.
To be clear.
He won the match.
That he won.
Okay.
All right. For my last pick, thank you for leaving it on the board. And this is also a little bit emotional. I'm going Federer 2004, just because I'm reading The Master right now, and it's so cool to see young Federer. And it kind of took him a while to win slams, like versus counterpart Hewitt. You know, they kind of were brought up at the same time. Coaches were friends with each other, and he was always being compared to Hewitt. And I think now, like this 2004 season was him just exploding on the scene. 3 majors, 11 titles, 3 Masters 1000s, and a Tour Finals at overall record 74-6. So, and I also needed a Federer on my team, man. It was getting to the point where you thought you didn't have Djokovic. I'm like, I need Federer.
So my argument against Federer in 2004 is didn't win the French. It is a bummer, but
Yeah.
that's the only one. The one argument against it. Obviously, it was an incredible year. I was almost gonna pick it, and I wouldn't have brought this up if I was picking it. But he also didn't win the Olympics, and that was a time when it was kind of wide open for him to win it. Like, who is he gonna really compete with? Like, Nadal wasn't really there, and he had an opportunity. He didn't perform, and then obviously later on, Nadal gets it, and then Murray twice, and then he's gone.
Yeah, and he was pretty upset about that. I remember in the book, and that's when he was spending a lot of time with Mirka too. Yeah,
Wanted to impress her with that Olympic gold, and just didn't get it done.
I know.
I think we're back to Parth with this last one.
Okay. So to recap, I got Djokovic 2011, Nadal 2008, Connors 1974. So for my last season, am I allowed to pick from not on the board?
100%.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I have Djokovic and Rafa, and I don't have Federer, and the kind of 3 of Federer's notable seasons are kind of off the board. And there's one that I am thinking of that isn't necessarily on this board, but is so good. And I would go Federer 2007. It's kind of a similar situation to Fed 2006. And also 2004. He won 3 majors and finaled at the French Open, which I think is, for him, I guess that's normal, but for most people that isn't. 68-9, year-end number 1, 8 titles, and also won the Tour Finals, and just absolutely dominated some of these big matches. I'm just kind of looking at some of the stats right now. Won the Australian Open final in straight sets, grinded out that Wimbledon final against Rafa. I think he kind of withstood that first real challenge on grass from Rafa. 2006 was more of a kind of one-sided affair, but 2007 he had to really fight for it in 5 sets, and then beat Djokovic in Djokovic's first Grand Slam final in straights at the U.S. Open. It's the only weird thing, and I remember this from as it was happening, was that he lost to Guillermo Cañas.
I was just looking at that.
2 tournaments in a row.
The reverse sunshine double.
The reverse sunshine double. He beat Federer.
Yeah, exactly.
In both, which is just the strangest thing ever. But I remember being very excited about it at the time. I couldn't believe that somebody that wasn't Rafa actually beat him. And then it also had another good match. I don't know why I'm talking about his losses when I just drafted his season, but he had a really good match with Djokovic in the Montreal final. But outside of those weird things, he just went nuclear. It was pretty amazing stuff. And so I think that that rounds out my roster. I got at least one of the big three, and then one oldie. So it feels right. Yeah, I gotta have an oldie.
100%. Well, I guess we'll maybe look it up on ChatGPT who had the best season, or figure that out. Ask you guys what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no one took any recent players then, huh?
No, not
I
really.
guess I kind of wanted to keep it like each generation, but then that went out.
Yeah,
the
I was
window.
looking. Because I mean, if we're talking about honorable mention picks, I definitely was interested in taking Sinner's season this year. I had that in my top 16. I had it on here. It was above Murray 2016, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. That was not the best pick. Bjorn Borg, 1979.
You were at the Wimbledon though, so
You're picking with my heart.
yeah.
I feel like Bjorn Borg, 1979, has got to be.
Yeah,
I know.
That's crazy that wasn't picked.
It was between that and Federer 2007 for me. I just honestly
Wanted to round out the big three.
I wanted the big three, and I know that Borg just went like supernova for 5 years and then just like never played again.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't really know enough. I mean, I see the numbers 84-6, 13 titles, Channel Slam, but I think
some to an extent we also were picking more with some storylines we liked. Whereas 1979 Borg, it wasn't that crazy of a storyline in terms of comparing it to like his previous years. Because it's like, okay, yeah, like you said, he was incredibly dominant for all those years. It's like taking a Lendl pick. I was like, there were years where he was dominant, but there wasn't really like specific years that stood out. It was kind of like just like over this span, he was really good. But anyway, so let's hop into segments.
Yeah, let's do it. I can start us off. What's new in tennis? This one was pretty funny. I saw it. So Stefanos splits with his fitness coach. Christos Fotakis.
It was Paolo Badosa.
Yeah, right. No, they're back together. But so it's funny because the coach, Christos, actually broke up with Stefanos, not the other way around. And I got some funny quotes here. So he was not satisfied with his work ethic and his priorities. That was the reason. And he goes, yeah, that's why I can't travel for 7 months straight with only 25 days at home when the goals are not high and I'm traveling just to travel.
Yeah.
Dude, what do you guys think of that?
I mean, so that just sounds like he's saying, yeah, Stefanos is bringing me as like a figurehead of like, oh, I have this trainer that I work with, and then just not actually training. It's like joining a gym to say, yeah, I go to that gym, and then just never going.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, any thoughts?
I think that honestly tracks with some of the other stuff I hear about Tsitsipas. I remember, I'm going to paraphrase, but I remember him being asked like a year or maybe a little bit more ago about like, okay, now Alcaraz and Sinner are here. You were supposed to be kind of the next guy that was supposed to be contending for all these slams. Now you're kind of being surpassed by these even younger guys. What are your thoughts? And I think more or less he said something to the effect of like, like it's not all about the wins, man. I live a great life. I'm having a good time. I'm dating Paula Badosa. Look at my hair. Like it's, and I read that and I was like, okay, this guy he loves the lifestyle, which is sick. I mean, he's like good enough to make some deep runs, and he's kind of gotten back into his winning ways. He won Monte Carlo, which was kind of cool.
Still outside the top 10, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
11.
I know. The fall off needs to be studied. But yeah, I think he probably doesn't have that like intrinsic, fire to win. So I guess, that checks out.
It's funny because you look at these guys and you expect them all to be like Tom Brady or Djokovic or Federer and Nadal, where they're like, I have to win as many slams. I have to be the greatest of all time. And then Tsitsipas is like, I can be good, but I might not be the
I think
best
that's
ever.
him accepting it because like he probably had that thought, 5 years ago, and now he's just at peace with it.
Yeah.
What about you, Aiden? What'd you see this week?
So big news with Djokovic and Nadal both out of Wimbledon. Pretty crazy, and I'm kind of just wondering what the repercussions of that are. I mean, obviously we have Alcaraz and Sinner still being probably just the clear favorites, but does that open the door for someone else? I mean, it's going to mean that Djokovic doesn't clear out a quarter probably or a half. So what does that mean for the tournament? We don't know yet, but I think it creates interesting possibilities.
Yeah, I know Djokovic when he first had the surgery was trying to say he was going to come back for Wimbledon, which is pretty nuts. 3-week turnaround.
I mean, I guess it's still possible. I don't know, it's like
No, yeah, I
100%.
think he's
but
out.
based on everything I've heard they've talked about, it sounds like he's out.
And I mean, it goes back to what we mentioned last week too, where he's going to try to prioritize that Olympic medal.
He needs that one last accomplishment
he doesn't have.
Yeah. You guys have any thoughts on what that means for the rest of the players?
I'm excited for the budding Alcaraz Sinner story. I feel like, I don't know, it sort of resembles the changing of the guards to Djokovic Murray back in the day, and I think it's exciting. I mean, I think they're two great guys, great players. I mean, I'm slightly team Alcaraz. I love them both, but like Alcaraz is just like the most exciting player.
Yeah, and he's such an entertainer.
He's just such an entertainer, exactly.
Just like a good person.
Yeah,
he's
just unbelievable shot maker. So I don't know. I think let's let that story grow, and obviously there's other great players too who have big chances to take Wimbledon. But like, I don't know. I think I might be starting to get a little bit tired of Djokovic.
Say it ain't so.
And I mean, as much as I would love Nadal to do amazing, but I don't think that's like realistic at this point. He looks just older and just doesn't have it the same way that he used to. So I don't know how.
I mean, Alcaraz's racket skill is just ridiculous. He can be in such an unorthodox position and still somehow hit a shot back that you're like, that was hard for his opponent to get his shot when Alcaraz was like in the air when he turned and hit it. And you're like, that was pretty nuts. But yeah, I'm really excited for that rivalry too. I mean, you look at Sinner's season right now, he's unbeatable except to Alcaraz. It's like the only person Tsitsipas did beat him, but there was definitely some iffy moments in that match. And then Alcaraz has beaten him straight up twice in Indian Wells and at the French Open. So definitely a pretty cool rivalry to see.
I think we're just going to find out who's good on grass, finally. Like, we haven't really gotten that chance because Djokovic is the only one on tour that knows how to play on grass. So it'll be good. I honestly don't really know. I don't have that much insight into, like, Rublev's game on grass. Like, I mean,
it'll be cool to see maybe Berrettini.
Exactly.
Berrettini's playing well right now in the Stuttgart. So
finalist.
Yeah, we'll see if he can kind of translate that into Wimbledon. Maybe he'll come into Wimbledon with more confidence, knowing he doesn't have to ever play Djokovic.
Yeah.
But anyway, you want to hop into bet of the week here?
Yeah, let's do it. Who are you taking this week?
So I'm taking a prop bet this week. I'm going plus 105 for over 2.5 sets between Draper and Berrettini. I didn't really want to go with either of the guys here. I wasn't super confident, but I do think it's going to be a really good match. I think, in my opinion, this year Draper's been slightly better player, but obviously Berrettini knows how to play on grass. He gets it done on grass, and that could play a big role here. And I think they're going to split the first 2 sets because I think Berrettini's just going to be dominant on serve in one of the sets. And then I think Draper, if I was going to pick, I would say Draper wins the match. But I think it goes to 3.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm not too confident in Draper's fitness though, just because after seeing him recently, like especially in Miami against Jari, who's also big server, I could see it going similarly with Berrettini, and he just completely lost it the second half of the third set. And I think, he's been playing very well in Stuttgart, right? But he hasn't really been challenged enough, so he hasn't really been pushed physically.
I mean, he played in the Australian Open this year, and he had that moment where he won the match, and then he had to go throw up instead of shaking the guy's hand.
Oh, man.
Pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Pretty nuts. What about you? What'd you go with?
So I'm going with Korda plus 155 in the final. So he's playing Deminar, and they have a head. Or so sorry, they played 3 times. Okay. Deminar has the advantage, 2-1, but the only win that Korda has came on grass. So I feel like he may have the matchup here. He's kind of been cruising this tournament, surprisingly. He's beat Tommy Paul pretty handedly, who I feel like has a similar game to Deminar. So going with that. I know last week I had a lock. This week I'm not so sure, but I like this one for.
I think that's kind of a reasonable pick, but I really don't want it to happen.
Yeah, I know.
I really want Deminar to win this match.
So why don't you bet? Why don't you take Deminar this week?
Because
you're not betting emotionally this week.
I always go for the underdog, unless there's a very specific reason, like I'm taking our buddy Alafia in that match. Right. But yeah, I mean it's a reasonable bet. I like your reasoning, but I think that I think Deminar's going to get it done. So
I hope he doesn't. You guys have thoughts on the bets?
I think Korda can do it. His game is so well suited for grass. He's due for a win.
That's what I'm thinking too. I mean, obviously, whenever I say someone's due, it never happens.
Yeah.
But...
You know who's due is Murray. He's going to win that Australian Open next year.
With the Yonex.
Yeah, exactly.
The 60 plus.
Anyway, let's go into the last one, match of the week. What'd you go for this week?
So match of the week, I took Draper taking down Tiafoe in a tight third set tiebreaker. So this match, it had a lot of great net play because a lot of, or I guess both players were very good at coming up, good at playing at the net. And surprisingly, Draper had some amazing passes. Like I expected from Tiafoe, which I saw. And Draper, I feel like his passes on the run were phenomenal to watch. And then just the fact that it was a tight match too. So split and then went to the tight third. And then Draper just kind of took control from there, beat him in the tiebreaker 7-1. But hey, it's good that Tiafoe made it to a quarterfinal.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely stringing a couple wins together is a positive sign for him because he has been not doing well. He's now the number 5 American. He's behind Korda and like significantly behind Korda now. It's not like they're right next to each other. So hopefully we can see Tiafoe turn it around, and this is a step in the right direction. But yeah, that's an exciting match. I saw the highlights of that one, and it was had some exciting
a lot of great plays.
Another match that I had that I watched was Deminar versus Raonic. And this match wasn't as close as some of the other ones. It was 7-5, 6-2 for Deminar. But it kind of was exactly what you're hoping for when you're watching a Deminar match, which is him just making these insane gets, being all over the court, and then just producing something electric at the end to win the point. I think on set point, he had like a spectacular pass. But it was just an exciting match, fun match to watch, and definitely recommend checking out the highlights.
Yeah, that was when we were watching and just being like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, exactly.
Like every other point.
But yeah, so we'll post the picks to you guys, and let's see what you guys have to say about it.
All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.